Ever feel like you're just drifting along in your career, hoping that perfect job will just kind of fall into your lap?
It's a common feeling. Lots of people find themselves in that situation.
I know I have. But this book we're diving into today, Where's Your Buffalo?
Hmm.
It really shifted my thinking. Like, instead of waiting around, it's about being proactive, you know, becoming a hunter.
That's a really crucial distinction because so many people, they approach their careers so reactively. But this book, it gives you a framework, a way to actually take charge.
Exactly. And that's what I love about these deep dives. It's like we're taking all the best advice, the most actionable stuff from Where's Your Buffalo, and trying to help you, the listener, actually navigate your own career journey with it.
It's like having a personal advice session with like a seasoned executive recruiter, someone who's seen it all.
Right. Okay, so let's just break it down. What is this whole Where's Your Buffalo concept anyway?
Well, the author, he uses this really clever analogy. It's from his sailing days. Imagine you're setting sail, right? But you don't have a destination in mind. What happens?
You're just going in circles.
Exactly. You get nowhere fast. You need a target, a goal, a buffalo. Just like a sailor, they need their destination. So in your career, that buffalo, that is your ideal career path.
Okay, but it's got to be more than just like a job title.
Oh, absolutely.
It's about figuring out what really matters to you in your career. What are your values?
Exactly. What are your values? Do you want to be in a fast-paced environment, or are you looking for something a little more stable? How much income do you really need to live the lifestyle you want? What kind of impact do you want to have on the world through your work? These are the questions the book really pushes you to think about.
Yeah, and it's not just about dreaming big either, right? It's also about actually creating a plan.
Yeah.
The book calls it your business plan for life, right?
Yes. And just like a business plan, this needs to be concrete. Johnston breaks it down into 5 key elements. So you've got location, income potential, lifestyle, professional and personal growth, and then workplace culture and environment.
So instead of just being like, oh, I want to work in tech, you're actually asking yourself, okay, where do I actually want to live? What's my ideal salary range? What does my work-life balance need to look like? What skills do I want to build? And even what kind of company culture would I actually thrive in?
Yes, exactly. It forces you to get specific, to think strategically about how to actually get what you want.
I love that. So it's really easy to get caught up in, an idealized vision of a career, but the book, it stresses how important it is to test your assumptions early on. And he tells this story about Lizzie, who was just convinced she wanted to be a veterinarian.
Oh, I love that story. I think a lot of people can relate to her experience. She loved animals, so naturally she's like, okay, I'm going to become a vet. That's my calling.
Makes sense, right?
Makes perfect sense.
And then she starts volunteering at a vet clinic and has this big realization.
Yeah, it wasn't what she thought it would be at all. She saw the really tough parts of the job. The emotional toll, the difficult cases, the heartbreaking decisions. And she realized, you know what? I love animals, but actually being a vet, it's not the right fit for me.
Like that whole saying, don't meet your heroes.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes the reality is just so different from the fantasy.
It's so true.
Especially with jobs.
Yeah. And that's the power of things like internships, volunteering, even side hustles. They let you test the waters a bit, get a taste of different fields so you can refine that business plan for life without diving in headfirst.
Yeah. It's like a test drive, right? Before you buy the car.
Exactly. And this is important throughout your career, by the way, not just when you're starting out. The job market's always changing.
Yeah.
Your interests might evolve. Your skills will develop.
So true. So how do we go from refining this business plan for life to actually making those connections, finding those opportunities? And the book talks a lot about building this career-focused community.
It's crucial because no one achieves success in a vacuum. It's like this. Think of yourself as a ship, right? Your network. Those are your crew members. You need a skilled and supportive team to help you navigate all the challenges, all the opportunities that come your way.
I love that analogy. So it's not just about collecting business cards at some random networking event.
Not at all. It's about building genuine relationships that are reciprocal, offering value to your connections, not just, always looking for something in return.
Right. Like the story of Brendan, the hotel manager, who was just completely burned out.
Yeah.
He thought he was stuck, in that hospitality industry forever. But by tapping into his network,
he found a whole world of possibilities he didn't even know existed.
He had connections to conference centers, event venues, even real estate developers. Things that were adjacent to his field, but not something he would have immediately thought of.
It's amazing, right?
Yeah.
And all those people, they really valued his expertise, even though it wasn't like directly related to their specific industry.
It was that shift in perspective for him, thinking, wait, my skills are more transferable than I realized.
Exactly. It's about thinking outside that immediate circle and making those connections. And the book really encourages reaching out to people even outside of your specific industry, you know?
It's like you're opening up a whole other level of networking when you can actually articulate your value, right?
Yeah.
It's not enough to just have connections.
Right, because you're not just a list of jobs on a resume. You're a person with a story, with skills and experiences that can benefit others.
Totally. But figuring out how to actually tell that story, your why, in a way that really resonates with people, that's always been tough for me.
Yeah, it's a common challenge, but the book offers this really practical framework called the HPC positioning technique to help you craft that, concise and impactful elevator pitch.
Okay, tell me more about this HPC. I'm intrigued. What is it?
So HPC, it stands for history, problem, and close. It's basically a way to structure your story so that it really lands with potential employers or anyone you're networking with.
So history, that's like your background, right?
Yeah.
Your work experience, your skills.
Right, but it's more than just listing off job titles. It's about highlighting those accomplishments, those skills that are relevant to the specific problem that the company or the person you're talking to is facing. You're telling a story, but it's targeted.
Oh, I see. So it's not just, this is what I've done. It's more like, this is how I can help you.
Exactly. You're connecting your experience to their needs. And then the close, that's where you seal the deal. What do you want them to do with this information? Do you want to schedule a meeting, learn more about open positions? You got to have a clear and compelling call to action.
That's such a good point. Okay, so I can see how that structure would make networking way less intimidating. But what about all this online networking? It feels like everyone's on LinkedIn these days, right?
Oh, absolutely. Your online presence is huge now. Johnston, he actually dedicates a whole chapter to managing your digital footprint, especially on platforms like LinkedIn.
So that means, no embarrassing college party pics.
Let's just say it's always a good idea to do a little audit of your social media, yeah. Make sure it's projecting the image you want out there.
Good advice. What about LinkedIn specifically? What are your top tips for making a profile stand out?
Think of it like your online resume, but with a bit more personality. You want to highlight those accomplishments, yeah, but also share your passions, what you're looking for in your next opportunity, what makes you, you.
It's all about building that personal brand, both online and offline.
100%. And don't forget to actually engage, Share articles, comment on posts, participate in industry discussions. You got to make yourself visible.
It's all about those relationships, even if they are virtual for now. The book also talks about being proactive, really going after what you want, especially if you're trying to break into a new field or maybe you have some gaps in your work history. What do you think about that section?
It's where the book really challenges you to get creative. Johnston suggests some pretty bold moves, like offering to volunteer or even working for free for a bit just to show what you can do. He calls them working interviews.
I mean, it sounds a little unconventional.
It is.
But I can see how it would be really effective. Like you're saying, look, I believe in myself and my skills so much, I'm willing to prove it to you.
Exactly. He tells this story about Melanie. She wanted a legal job in Australia, but didn't have local experience. So she offered to work for free for 30 days. And it worked. She got the job.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
It takes guts to put yourself out there like that.
It does. But it shows you're serious.
And sometimes you got to take those risks, right?
Totally. And don't forget about persistence. The book talks about following up even if you don't hear back right away.
So many people are terrified to follow up. But honestly, I always say it's better to be politely persistent than miss an opportunity,
100%. And sometimes you have to create your own opportunities. Johnston talks about using the internet to research companies, find out who the hiring managers are, and reach out to them directly.
Be your own advocate, right?
You are the CEO of your career. Speaking of high-stakes situations, let's talk about the interview process itself.
I mean, for a lot of people, the interview is the most nerve-wracking part of the whole job search, right?
That's for sure.
Yeah.
It can be super high pressure, but it's important to remember an interview, it's a two-way street, right? You're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you.
That's a really good point. I get so caught up trying to impress the company that I forget to, even ask myself if I would want to work there.
It's easy to get swept up in the moment, but yeah, you want to go in with your eyes open. That being said, Preparation is key. Being prepared will help you feel so much more confident.
Absolutely. And Johnston, he has some great advice on this. I love how he breaks down the interview into like these 4 distinct acts.
Yeah, it's such a helpful framework. It helps you approach each stage really strategically. So, Act 1, this is all about those first impressions, right? How you present yourself. So, dress professionally, of course, be on time, and have a couple of conversation starters in your back pocket just to break the ice.
Yeah, those first few minutes really set the tone. It's like, first date. You got to put your best foot forward.
Exactly. Then you've got Act 2, and this is your time to shine. Be ready to talk about those skills, those accomplishments, and really tie them back to what the company needs.
This is where the why document comes in handy, right?
Yeah.
Having that prepared so you can really articulate how you can help them.
Yes. And the book also talks about this thing called the SAVE-E technique, which is a way to structure your responses during the interview.
Oh, tell me more about SAVE-E. I haven't heard of that.
Okay, so you start by stating that you have that skill they're looking for, but then you back it up with specific accomplishments that prove it.
Okay, so it's not just I'm great at this. It's I'm great at this and here's proof.
Right. Then you explain the value you brought to the previous company with those skills, with concrete examples.
So you're basically saying this is how I've made a difference in the past and this is how I can do the same for you.
Exactly. Okay, moving on to Act 3. This is all about you asking thoughtful questions. This shows you've done your homework, you're curious, and you're genuinely interested.
Right. It's about showing them you're not just there for any job, you're there for this job.
Exactly. So jot down some questions beforehand based on your research or things that come up during the conversation.
It shows you're really paying attention.
Yes. And finally, Act 4. This is about closing strong. So reiterate your enthusiasm for the role, summarize your key strength, and just be super clear about what you want the next steps to be.
Leave them with a good impression.
Exactly. And of course, don't forget that thank you note afterwards. Within 24 hours, it makes a difference.
Oh, absolutely. So let's say you totally nail the interview, you get the offer, but then they come back with a counteroffer, to try and keep you at your current job. And Johnston had some, shall we say, strong opinions on counteroffers.
He did. He really encourages people to think twice before accepting one.
Which, at first glance, I feel like counteroffers were flattering, right?
Yeah.
Your company suddenly wants to give you more money, a better title, trying to convince you to stay.
Oh, for sure. It's tempting. But Johnston argues that in the long run, it rarely works out well for the employee.
Really? Why is that?
Well, often those underlying issues that made you want to leave in the first place, like maybe it's lack of growth opportunities, a toxic work environment, or you just feel undervalued, those things aren't going to magically disappear just because they offer you more money.
That's a great point. Plus, you've shown your hand now, right? They know you're not happy.
Exactly. And even if they are genuine in wanting to keep you, they might always be a little suspicious, Like, are they going to leave again as soon as they get another offer?
So it could actually damage that trust.
Yeah. So sometimes it really is best to just stick to your guns and move on to that new opportunity you were excited about.
So if you do decide to make the move, what are your tips for resigning gracefully?
Be direct. Be professional. Be respectful. If you can, talk to your boss in person. Let them know you're grateful for the opportunity, but you've accepted another position.
And offer to help with the transition. Don't leave them high and dry.
Yes. You want to leave on good terms, if possible. It's a small world. You never know when your paths might cross again.
This has been such a great conversation. So many practical tips and insights from Where's Your Buffalo?
I know I'm walking away feeling really energized, like ready to take charge of my own career path.
Me too. I hope our listeners are feeling that same energy.
Like they can go out and find their own buffalo.
Exactly. Because remember, it's not going to just fall into your lap, right?
Gotta go hunt it down.
You've got to be proactive, you've got to be persistent, and most importantly, you've got to know what you're looking for.
That's the key. And once you have that vision, that buffalo in your sights, everything else starts to fall into place.
This has been fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into Where's Your Buffalo?
The pleasure was all mine.
It's your